Hello, I'm Lillian, just Lillian. I'm not a psychologist or a theologian. I haven't been to Bible college or any place that might give me some kind of credentials that separate me out as especially holy in knowledge. Who I am is a survivor. I'm a sister in Christ who believed all the Christian teachings on marriage and lived them out. I ended up trapped in an abusive marriage for almost 34 years, not even realizing it was abuse. That last phrase, not even realizing it was abuse, could be the key to understanding your own situation if your marriage has lots of conflict. Through that journey, I've accumulated some interesting and some disturbing knowledge about how wolves in sheep's clothing can stay hidden in marriage and even thrive within the Christian community and churches. This clip is taken from my main video titled, What Every Wife Needs to Know About Reversed Polarity in Marriage. You can find the link for that in the description box and at the end of the video. Estrogen is the responding hormone, not the initiating one. Contention is a response to what testosterone is initiating towards her, or what he's not initiating towards her. What you might think is contention could be the voice of her heart that's crying out for safety, or healing, or for connection and attachment. There are two possible reasons that a wife is operating in her masculine energy when it comes to marriage. The first one is that there's something in the marriage that's not getting done. Like I said earlier, someone has to take care of the marriage. And if her husband's not, then naturally the masculine mindset wife thinks that it's got to be her. That's her response to the absence of his investment. In the effort to try and make things better, she unknowingly steps into this role of almost like a caretaker of the man. And she contends with him by trying to lead and solve the problems. Another name for this is mothering. A healthy man is not going to chase or pursue his mother. By stepping into the responsibilities that God designed for her husband, it's not that she's intentionally trying to mother him, but that's how it comes across to his masculinity. Earlier when I said that you can use your testosterone the wrong way in marriage, this is it. A wife's not supposed to use her own testosterone as provision for a man. Her masculine provision is for herself and her household. God designed provision to naturally flow from the stronger to the weaker. When a wife uses her little bit of testosterone to provide masculinity for a man who's already got 90%, she ends up contributing to a dynamic that's draining her physically and emotionally. She's attempting to provide something for her husband that God designed him to provide for her. That's the reversal. The other reason a woman can be in her masculine mindset is that her body is forcing that energy because it doesn't feel safe for her to relax into her adaptable, warm, receiving feminine energy. When a wife feels emotionally, mentally, and especially physically unsafe in her marriage, her body instinctively morphs into a role that's a protective response instead of a receiving one. And this looks like striving, solving problems, controlling, and overfunctioning. These are the kind of behaviors that are biologically rooted in staying safe in order to survive. Hence, the contentious wife. What does it mean to feel emotionally or mentally unsafe in your marriage? How do you know that that's happening? You know by how you feel. When that dynamic's happening, you'll experience feelings of not being able to be transparent with your husband when it comes to your feelings and emotions if it's about him. What I mean by that is that you'll be able to talk to him about outside things like challenges at work or conflicts with friends or neighbors or even certain extended family members. However, when it comes to being open and authentic with your heart, and it's about him, or if you're trying to solve issues between the two of you, it's a completely different story. There's this sharp, painful, confusing contrast that makes being your authentic self with him feel impossible. It's not just that you're hesitant, it's that something deeper is telling you that unless you're going to share something positive, uplifting, or compliments and affirmations, it's not safe to go there. If you're experiencing this, what's going to happen over time is this protective covering that your body is naturally responding with. It can only harden into a pattern of behavior where you lean into your own strength and strategy. Not out of rebellion, though, it's out of necessity. When it becomes your way of life in the marriage, it becomes your identity. Your body's being forced into hypervigilance and always scanning for mental and emotional cues and threats. You know, the quiet, invisible ones that don't leave marks on the outside of your body, only on your mind and heart. It is physically impossible for you to relax into the softer, more receptive features of femininity. In this dynamic, your husband will see you as critical and domineering, but in reality, your behaviors are accurate responses to a man who's not providing the emotional and spiritual source of stability, care, and protection that he's been commanded to. Ephesians 5, verses 25 through 33. And this is what happened to me. And a big part of the reason I got stuck, chained to a wolf in sheep's clothing for so long. The church counseled me repeatedly to focus on the functions of doing things right, doing things better. They taught me to continually burn up my little bit of testosterone by doing all the work in the marriage, solving the problems and organizing everything, being the one who did the cleaving to him if he couldn't do it. And it's not that he couldn't, it's that he wouldn't. I was taught that's what it means to be a helper. I've got a series that you can go deeper with what a true helper really is. I'll put it in the cards. I was taught that the first part of being an excellent wife was doing all the doing things in Proverbs 31. And the second part was the don'ts. Don't be a contentious wife. The Proverbs say it's a bad thing for your husband, that I'm supposed to just stop whatever it is that I'm doing that my husband doesn't like, whatever it is that he thinks is antagonistic. The first false teaching here was that it subversively got me to make my husband the center of my life. That's how marriage becomes an idol. The second false teaching was that it encouraged me to focus on the actions themselves. Whenever a marriage teaching tries to get you to stay on the surface and only ask what it is that you're doing instead of encouraging you to self-reflect into why you're doing something, that teaching needs to be approached with suspicion. Do you know why they don't ask wives to reflect on how and why they're contentious? Because they believe that all contention is synonymous with her own rebellion, instead of considering that her contention could be a reflection of her husband's rebellion. We're going to come back to that when I wrap up the video. That huge contrast between the contentious wife and a feminine creature who embodies God's design is that her identity is in trusting him and his intentions, not how she performs as a wife. If you've been labeled as a contentious wife, or you've started to see her spirit, that's your biggest indicator of a masculine mindset. The only way out of that masculine mindset is to heal. Femininity doesn't force outcomes or try to control situations or strategize solutions for the marriage. She completely hands it over to God. Instead, she responds with receptivity or she rejects. She learns to live in God's peace because He's her primary source of security, not a husband and not the marriage. Psalm 118, verses 5 through 9. This psalm is beautiful. It says, "Out of a tight place I called on Adonai. Adonai answered me with a spacious place. Adonai is for me. I will not fear. What can man do to me?" When there's a lot of conflict in your marriage, when your husband won't assume accountability for leadership, and when he's neglecting his masculine headship responsibilities, I'd say that's a tight place for you. When he's not cleaving to you, you're not going to have that feeling of being cherished and supported. So your feminine essence, which thrives on safety and connection, she's going to retreat. But here's the thing. Who is she going to retreat towards? That matters. Retreating into an unhealed self, that's when the contentious wife comes to life. But retreating into God, that's the move that brings recovery and healing. According to Psalm 118, God will take you by the hand and He'll lead you into that spacious place of your femininity if you ask Him to. Healing into that spacious place is a gradual process. It's not going to happen all at once. But as you heal, what you're going to find is a deeper relationship developing between you and God. And there's going to be positive dynamics that begin to show up in the marriage. There can't not be. Here's the thing. If your husband is a healthy man, he will naturally begin to step into the masculine responsibilities of providing love, leadership, protection, intentionality, and that pursuit of your heart that's called cleaving. He will start chasing when you stop. Femininity's got nothing to do with behaviors or outward actions. It's about taking your focus off the marriage and leaning into God's intention for you as His daughter. 1 Peter 3, verse 4. That's why the starting point is to ask yourself, am I the contentious wife? But please don't stop there. You can't stop there. The solution is deeper inside you. You start with that question, what am I doing that's contentious? But that's only the starting point. You've got to ask yourself why you feel the way you do and how it happens and where it comes from. To wrap up, I want to draw from Eve. Every Christian teaching on marriage I've heard comes from the perspective that Eve is the one responsible for the fall of humanity, or at the very least, she shares the fault equally with Adam, as in 50-50. Links to what I said earlier, that contention is always about rebellion, and Eve is usually cited as the proof that all women are at the heart of themselves contentious. Don't you believe that lie about Eve or yourself. Eve wasn't a rebellious spirit trying to control the man because she thought she knew better. The fall is 100% on the man. Eve didn't know what she was doing because Adam hadn't shared the complete knowledge with her that he had received from God. If he had, she would have been able to answer with the truth, with the whole truth. Instead, he kept her naive and uninformed. He failed to empower her. Then, Satan, watching for the perfect timing, took advantage of that lack of shrewdness. Eve fell into sin because she was deceived. Adam, with the full knowledge, who was right there beside her, did not fall into transgression. he chose to sin. This distinction matters, not just a little. It's the driving force behind whether a marriage succeeds or fails. What happened between Adam and Eve is the clearest demonstration of what happens now in every marriage where the man refuses to be accountable to God. It shows exactly how a lack of masculine provision, care, and protection leaves a woman vulnerable. God created the masculine and feminine to operate as a single polarity exchange. It's a one-flesh, interdependent relationship. As a wife, you can't provide masculinity and receive and respond in femininity at the same time. If your relationship isn't a balanced interdependence of masculine investment and feminine reception, then the dynamic is reversed. To heal this polarity, the goal can't be to focus on changing what you're doing or even what he's doing. You don't want to focus on the external at all, but on the inside of yourself. If that shift in focus doesn't happen and your attention stays fixed on what he's not doing, you'll get locked deeper and deeper into a cycle of frustration, disappointment, and hopelessness.